Hello, everybody. Nice to see you there. I hope that you can hear me. We are almost going to start. It's 3 minutes to the time it's supposed to start. I just wanted to thank you guys for being here at the beginning. It means a lot for me. I'm here mostly because of the interaction with the chat. No, I think chat is a beautiful tool to not just be me speaking all the way, but having the opportunity to exchange some comments and ideas with you. So yeah, today's session, I thanks Luciano. Today we're going to have to do this in English. I did an Spanish one the other day. Luciano is our friend from Argentina. He is also involved in reforming the monetary system. So it's nice to see him here. So yeah, today we're going to do this in English, and I haven't planned that much of a schedule for today's meeting. I have things, of course, to say. I have my own views on what's going on around. But yeah, let's see where this leave us. No, where does this go? And we are going to explore a little bit what's going on, not only in the monetary system, the proposals or ideas that are happening in the world, but also from our own organizations. As you know, I'm part of an organization which is called Dinero Positivo. I'll show you the webpage. Hope you can hear it. And yes, this is our organization, a Spanish organization, where we campaign and try to educate everybody on the basics. Actually, the basic things of the monetary system, how it works, how is not the way most people suppose it is, and what can we do about it. No, so just this is where I come from. This is my own organization, but we are part of an international movement that gathers many different national organizations, and I've been lucky enough to be able to chat and meet many of our friends from many of these organizations to discuss these topics further, to exchange views and ideas to keep trying to influence and improve the current state of affairs in the monetary system. So that's what we are going to be doing today. You know, just from a perspective of natural curiosity, no, I think this is the way to start to dig into these topics, because yeah, the world is in such bad state. No, there are so many bad things going on at the moment that you cannot try to solve everything yourself. Even though we have found here an incredible simple stuff, no, an incredible simple exchange that we could do in the monetary system that would allow for many different other positive things that we could do for the world. But even though it's a small thing, a very concrete thing, a very kind of technical thing, it is complex as always, and human beings, after all, have a nature of their own, and it's not clear if we are able to change our path, no, where we are going in our society. So yeah, I think that if you try to approach this like expecting that it's going to be easy, that convincing people or helping people understand not only the problem but also the possible solutions and how to implement them and the consequences they would have, yeah, if you expect that this is easy, it's not going to happen. So I think that a more healthy way of approaching this topic is always one from curiosity, you know, from natural curiosity itself, trying to enjoy the ride, trying to, explore this topic because it's really amazing, interesting, and fantastic. Because yeah, at the end, money is just another tool that we've got, humans, for trying to coordinate ourselves in big scale, no? So there are many tools that we have created that can get out of control, no? For example, atomic war or television, or in this case, the money system itself. We talk a lot these days about AIs, no, artificial intelligence, and it's a great technology if it's used correctly. No, same happens with money once again. And money is just more in depth in our own ways of coordinating ourselves. It's right now the ruling mechanism, or one of the most important mechanisms through which many different people that do not know each other, that do not believe the same things, kind of coordinate to produce goods and services and distribute them. So money is not working as it was intended. It wasn't intended. It's a natural evolution that it has taken place, and that led us to this monetary system that has very, very much wrong things, we could say. No, there are many things in our monetary system that are not working properly. Yeah, so we know that. And despite knowing this fact, some of us, we find it very difficult to change the way we approach money itself. So this is our quest here. No, it's a simple quest. It's a simple experiment. Yet another, how do you say, another little objective that humanity has in front of it. And let's see, we will see if we are able to act upon it and do the necessary changes that are necessary. No, the necessary changes that are necessary. Yes, I know. I said something very, very self-explanatory, but like the monetary system. Let's start from the beginning, just in order to just or if there's someone here that hasn't understood yet what's this about. The monetary system, it's a flaw, and it has many consequences. First of all, the way the money is created out of debt by private banks, it's creating a huge amount of debt. There is interest repayment on this debt, and this creates a burden upon those into debt, because when you repay debts that are created with this kind of money disappears and makes it more difficult to repay the whole amount of debts. If those that lend you the money do not spend some other way of money that is not created out of debt into the economy, then it's impossible for people to repay their debts. No, let's stop here for a second, because the other day I tried to explain this to my mom and she didn't get it. So I guess it's not that easy. So first things first, we know that banks create money each time they give out a loan. No, the more people go into debt, the more money is created. And in the same way, when you repay your debt, this money disappears. So if this money disappears, how can you pay the interests? Well, it would be impossible if you didn't have any other kind of money. The only way it would be possible is if banks created this money purchasing things from the markets, like assets, for example. And in this way, they would be putting more money into the circulation, so the interest could be repaid at least once. But if they choose not to spend this money, not to create money to purchase assets, then we have a problem. Also, we in this current system not only have debt-based money, we also have cash and bank reserves, which are money created by the state. So this money doesn't destroy itself whenever a loan is repaid. If I lend money to my friend and I do this with, for example, cash, when this friend repays its debt, I have this money and I can spend it, and he can earn the amount that interest requires him to give back. No, so you have to have a form of money that is not created out of debt, like cash or bank reserves, or money that is created through asset purchases. And you have to also ensure that those that lend the money spend the money, so you can earn the interest. So interest is becoming a tool for spreading the power dynamics in our society. those that have more power, that can lend a lot of money, do not need to spend into the economy and make these loans difficult to repay. When you have an uneven position in a negotiating exchange, for example, in every market when price is negotiated, when one part has more power than the other and can say, okay, if you don't lower the price, I don't buy it. Then we have these problems that arise in society, like we pay little for the salaries of working people, for the job, for the working time. We also pay little for foreign resources like primary materials and so on. All these resources are devaluated because of this relationship of power, and we have to understand that power dynamics influence prices. Prices are not just as simple as supply and demand. You have all sorts of social dynamics that have an directly influence on the prices. And as we know, markets are not don't work perfectly. We have all kind of oligopolies and monopolies. And in this case, the banking sector or the financial system, we could say they work as a big oligopoly. We have few banks and they cooperate with each other because they share one important thing, which is trust. Whenever we lose trust in one bank, all the others have the same lack, no? Because this trust on the banking sector can spread very easily. So there are big incentives for them to work as an oligopoly. The bigger they are and the less they are, easier for them to be this kind of oligopoly. And just to name some of the consequences of this, and we later start talking about what's going on in the movement as a whole, I just wanted to point out that, for example, this oligopoly, this power that they gain from being the money creators and also for being so little of them and cooperating a lot and having the state rescuing them whenever they do bad, gives them the ability not to compete, to not to raise interest on deposits whenever they get a rise in the interest from the central bank, or having to pay fees for small transactions and for normal accounts. No, the banking services are very expensive. Today it's easier to send a 50 megabyte video through WhatsApp than to send a number from an account to another, which is kind of crazy. It takes one day, you know. So yeah, the banking sector is not very dynamic. It's kind of stuck in this situation of oligopoly. So this is just what we are trying to fix. Whenever you start having a public infrastructure, whenever you start having other kinds of money that are at least the state provides one alternative that is safe by its nature, it's not created out of debt and so on, then and it's digital, because right now we only have the physical, the public money. We also want the digital form of public money. Whenever you start having this into circulation, there is an alternative. Then people can choose to have the money safe or have it in the bank. So they are willing to accept the risks that are embedded on this choice. Whenever you put your money in the bank, then you would be making a conscious decision, trusting the bank, no, allowing him or it allowing the bank to have more resources to lend and so on. So if we have this public alternative, we are opening the way for stopping all the protections that banks have and allow them to fall if they do things wrong. That's something not very crazy. They do things wrong many, many times. So this is mostly it. I hope it's clear. I would love to see comments from you whenever you want to say something, or I can stop in everything in everywhere that you find interesting. I know for a fact that Luciano is very much against interest payment on debts. He thinks, at least as I understand, that the payment of interests is what makes debts irrepayable and creates these power dynamics that enrich the rich and extracts value from the poor, creating this huge inequality. So interest payment is something complicated whenever money is created out of debt, and whenever the wealth can be moved away from real economy, and so they can hoard money in a fictitious place, like for example the financial assets, or in asset form, like for example housing. No, whenever the rich can hoard more and more money and they are not forced to spend it into circulation, well, paying debts becomes much harder. And you have all of these problems of inflation in these assets and deflation in the rest of the economy. So yeah, Luciano here says, let's put this bigger so you can see it. Also, the money scarcity leads to take more loans, making a dynamic. Yeah, he is very right. Even though sometimes the interest rates seem small, like 2%, 3%, or 5%, that's not very big. In reality, commercial loans are 10, 20%, even though the central bank fixes 4.5, the real economy has a lot of interest rates. The poorer you are, probably the more interest rate you pay. And so yeah, interest rates may seem small, but whenever you are not able to repay a loan in time or whatever, and this has to happen because it's like a game of chairs where someone will not be able to repay it, you start paying just the interest or not even the interest, so you get more and more into debt, and at the end you may pay in interest the same amount that it cost you in the first place. No, you may pay even more, whatever. No, so interest repayment becomes a huge amount of the price that you pay for things. For example, the state here in Spain, it's known that the municipal states, the municipal councils, and so on, we pay in public infrastructure an average of 40% of the price in interest. So if we want to build another road, another school, whatever, we end up paying half the price more, almost half the price more, just to the bank, to the commercial bank that lends the money to the government, because the government doesn't want to use the power of money creation, even though it could be used for creating essential infrastructure that would perform economically and create more economic value. So that's something to take into account. Maybe we should, if we distrust the government that much, it's great that the government cannot do much, but if we acknowledge that it has to do some task and we trust it somehow, then why would we pay 40% more just because we forbid the use of a public banking system that lends zero interest to the public authorities, or any other measures to encourage lending to the public sector? No? So yeah, that's an interesting thing. Even for development countries, there is this problem that we told them that they have to borrow money from abroad, attract foreign capital, get into debt, but and forbid them to use their own money creation, even if it is supposed to go to basic stuff in order to provide economic performance. You have to have a healthy society, an educated society, take care of your environment, have essential infrastructures. There are like things that we kind of know that are better done by a central authority, a national authority, than be totally private, like for example roads. No, so there is a space for monetary creation. When it goes to these purposes, it shouldn't create inflation. And we have another great comment here by Yoon Kim, which says interest rates should be aligned with inflation target. Yeah, so inflation, as you know, is the increase on the general level of prices, no? And it kind of goes with if you produce less things or if you have more money into circulation, and if this equilibrium or balance between these two things, the amounts of goods and services and the amount of money in circulation, then if this changes, you may have inflation. No, the prices may go up or down. So yeah, whenever you have inflation, those that have lent the money lose some part of it because money gets less valuable. Let's say you lent $1,000 to someone, and the next year this $1,000 can purchase less things, so it's easier to get them and to repay the debt. No, so yeah, John Kim says interest rate, like the percentage that you have to give on top of the nominal amount. Let's say if you borrow $1,000, you have to give back 1,010 or 1,050. This 5% interest rate would be compensating for inflation. For example, if you got 5% more inflation, the $5,000 that you borrow and the 5,050 are the same value. The 1,050 that you gave back the next year can purchase the same things at the $1,000 at the beginning. But I must say that this is an interesting topic, that I'm not especially myself against interest rates. No, I'm not too worried that interest rates are paid between market participants, as long as they are not creating money for giving out loans, and as long as the state has some kind of tools to help some kind of investments. If we want green investments or social investments or some key infrastructure public investments, we should have the way to subsidize or to help people to lend their money to these governments or to these enterprises that kind of align their goals with the goals of the state. No, I wouldn't have a problem with interest rate being the price of money lending and borrowing, but it could be influenced not to allow it to be too high, so that debts become irrepayable, and we have all again once again this dynamic where debts are irrepayable and some people extract a lot of wealth through money lending. So the more capital we have in society, the more amount of money free of debt that we have around, the easier it gets to pay debts, and the less need to get into debt you have. No, so it would be great to have this kind of public digital money which is not reliable on debt. Thanks a lot, guys, for your questions or for your comments. I would love to hear more. So just write whatever comes into your mind. I love this interaction. It's just kind of the first time somebody says something in the chat, and I pretty much love this. So yeah, let's go to the second part if you want. Well, no, we have another comment. Let's point out to this comment again, and then we move on a little bit. So Luciano says again, higher prices are for monopolies also, not only a monetary issue. Exactly. That's what I think as well. And I've read a paper by Jesus Suaste Cherizola recently, which is, I think, Mexican or some Latin American country, I think Mexican guy. And he writes about this precisely, that prices not only reflect the supply and demand dynamics, they also reflect, for example, this power dynamics. If you have a monopoly, the price can go up just because there are no incentives for this participant to lower the price. No, so whenever these kind of structures arise in markets, and many markets tend to this, no, many of the economic productions tends to this concentration in fewer and fewer firms, and at the end in real monopolies, yeah, you get a price increase. No, so we could say this about many of the digital platforms that we use, such as Airbnb, Uber, BlaBlaCar, and others. They are at the end, they have this network dynamics where the one that makes it first wins everything, no? And it's very difficult to compete with them. Also with Google, Facebook, they create these silos where you cannot move your data around, and they sell all this data later. So yeah, we see a lot of monopolies everywhere in heavy industry as well, or there are markets where they do not tend to this monopoly that much. But these are more the exception than the norm, no? And I would point out to Blinder's paper or book that is as they asked questions to many firms in the US and asked them to their marginal cost structure, and most of them were decreasing marginal cost, so they would aim for as big as they could. No, there is not this decrease in marginal costs in production, so all production tends to be as big as possible, and they expect more growth, and so some of them may have to will be not able to survive, and so it ends naturally to all kind of monopolies and oligopolies. So yeah, That's most of it the question. So what we are aiming for in our movement, which is this, let's say we are talking now about the International Movement for Monetary Reform. What we aim is to find ways, and there can be many different ways or pathways that we can practically travel to reach this state where we have at least less dependence on the banking sector and the financial sector, having alternatives. Concretely, the public alternatives, no, public forms of digital money right now. So these public forms of digital money could take many different forms. For example, they could be national banks that would allow everyone to deposit their money there, and they would be 100% backed by the central bank. Or central banks may also provide a way for people to have their money 100% backed by them. Or we may have social currencies or more currency competition, but relying on a public digital form of money that could be a independent monetary authority or a monetary register that has it. So there are at least some different ways. And we are seeing right now that some of these pathways are moving faster than others. I could told you, for example, that the last week or 2 weeks before, I don't remember it precisely, we had a webinar for our members where we discussed CBDCs. CBDCs means central bank digital currencies. Why? Because CBDCs are being discussed everywhere right now. In many different countries, all the central banks in the world are studying or trying or implementing their own central bank digital currencies. And the way we see it is that it could be at least a form of digital money created by a public institution. It has many problems anyway. First one being that the institutions that promote these kind of monies are have a very bad history of trying to help and to represent the interest of the banking industry and the banking lobby. So first of all, they may not be the most suitable institutions to promote this kind of change. And we may be very skeptical that they are going to go full transition. No? These tools could only be another means of payment, or they could, depending how their legal terms are established and the regulations regarding, for example, limits on the amount each person can have. All of this can lead to a real alternative for people to move out from bank deposits into this kind of public digital money. So in these details of the way they are designed relies the key so that they can help us move towards a system where we have this kind of digital money system, digital public money. This is more or less what I understand as a sovereign money system. Or they could serve just the interest of the banks and become a new payment service. So we had these discussions around the problems, the things that we understand or not. We shared this knowledge between us, and we didn't reach a conclusion. We had two kind of perspectives. Some of us may opposed directly the proposal. They do not think that these institutions are trustable or legitimate to make any solution. They are part of the problem. So it's imperative that we avoid falling into this trap and make very clear the political or decisions or the interests that are represented by the current proposals, which are indeed there. You can see some of the legal bases where the responsibilities are established, for example, in the digital euro, and you see that the ECB has no responsibility whatsoever, and we, the society, have a lot of responsibilities regarding the using this money and assuming its costs and so on. So there are these problems there, but some of us also see that we should engage with these proposals and try to, yes, as well focus on the things that are not being done, but point towards what could be done so that we can force or help moving in this direction in the future. And I myself, I'm very hopeful. I don't know you guys maybe have another opinion, but my own personal take, and I will tell this now because it's my channel, so I guess I can tell my opinion. My own personal take is that, as I see it, the power dynamics are not always easy and simple. They are not perfectly coordinated. The rich people do not share completely the same interests. And right now, what we are seeing is a window of opportunity, because I'm seeing first that the central banks of the world or the governments do not like the idea to have to bail out the banks once and again and again. They are very angry that they have to put public money into the hands of bankers, and even liberals and right-wing people do not like this idea. They would favor not free market dynamics and not having to intervene the markets. So this is a force that people from left and right may agree upon. We know that there are interests, especially this banking sector and financial markets industry. So these interests, of course, do not want this central bank digital money to be a competition to break the monopoly on the kind of money that they create nowadays. No, they have an interesting business model creating money, and they do not want to lose it. No, so that's something for sure that you have to take into account. But also, there are another actors that are first the big tech companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon, and so on. They wanted to create their own currencies. They weren't allowed to do it because it was very clear that replicating the banking sector strategy of fractional reserve banking and so on was more volatility, more vulnerability, more fragility into the system. And the regulators in the US and Europe didn't want this to happen. So they say to them, no, you cannot create your own currency because it's dangerous, it's systemic risk, we do not want to bail out this. If everybody starts using Facebook's currency, then we may end up having to rescue Facebook currency creation, no? Even though Facebook is the one that benefits from this. So they forbid them to create their own money. So they wanted now having the same level playing field. So they want that. So the banks do not have this privilege either. No, so if they cannot do this, so the banks cannot do this as well. And they started pushing for stable coins. They are collaborating with central banks to do the first trials of these CBDCs. And so there is this confrontation between interests of the banking industry and the big techs, and we don't know if they will end up collaborating and with the central bank to establish new privileges in these new currencies. This is a real risk that we have identified. I hope it's kind of somehow clear. And there is this second reason, the second player that also plays into our hands here, so that the central banks create digital currencies that serve our interests, which is the international currency competition. We are seeing that countries such as China are starting to create their own CBDCs, and it's clear that having a digital currency that is backed by the state, by the central bank of a state, is better and is safer than having a digital currency that is backed by the banking sector of a given state. The banking sector does this kind of risky business, creating more deposits than they can really redeem with their liquid assets. So there is always this systemic risk there. So there is, for countries like Europe or in the US or in any part of the world, there is the risk that a foreign CBDC starts to be used and you get dollarization of your economy, or you get yuanization, or whatever digital currency starts to be used. So they want to have their own digital currency to compete with foreign digital currencies from other nations because they want to retain their money sovereignty, no? The benefit of being the creator of the currency that it's used in your country. So this is another important reason that nowadays I think explain a lot of why we have this push from central banks to create something that could, in theory, not benefit the banking sectors that much. Would create this kind of bank rank risk. No, if many people move deposits to central bank digital currency, banks may find themselves a little bit worried. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see the proposals and how they evolve. And this was part of my main focus these last weeks. We were trying to shed light on all of these details, design issues that we are seeing, so that we can understand it more. And I have to say that in the future, I will, for sure, we will create more opportunities for people from our movements to participate and to engage into this discussion, and also with a broader public, and create content for social media, for every organization, and so on, based on the conclusions we take from this discussion. At the moment, we have two different views. The one that wants to oppose it clearly and create other ways and wait for a better moment to push for our proposals, and the part that wants to engage and use this opportunity as a way to reach more people and to educate people on what is really a central bank digital currency, how would it change to have a public digital form of money, and what are the details and the design principles that should be used. So we are trying to, at the end, create this framework that could be applied to any kind of sovereign money reform or proposal, not only CBDC, but any other form of public digital money that is envisioned. There are many criteria that have to be complied, no? Like, for example, privacy for the user. Like, for example, no amount limits for the user. No negative interest rates. And many others. I could say many of them, but all of these details are important. Well, I hope it's somehow clear for you guys. If you have any comment there, I would love to see it as well. Well, so that was one thing that we were doing these days. Offline use, says Luciano. Yeah, precisely. That is another design principle that would be necessary to have somehow a kind of anonymity, no? To imitate as much as possible the anonymity that you have in cash, in real cash, no? There is a technology very simple that is rechargeable cards, like those for metro and bus and so on, and you could recharge them with digital currency from your central bank or the monetary authority, whatever, and use them with total anonymity. In the same way, when you go to a bank and you take out some cash, the bank knows that how much cash gave to you, but later you can spend it with total anonymity, no? Or with a high degree, because cash can also be tracked a little bit. So yeah, offline use is an important design principle that we push for as well. We have tried to focus on all the design principles that would make this money not possible to be authoritarian use. No, if an authoritarian government or institution wants to use it for imposing different ways of agendas, let's say, they can't. No, for example, it couldn't be programmable money. They cannot tell you where you can spend it and where you can't. No, this would be we would be completely against it. And many others, like, for example, protecting cash itself. No, cash is a very important asset that we have today to ensure all of these privacy things. No, so if you have this alternative, cash, you can be sure that the digital alternative cannot be very bad. No, if they create a digital currency that is not privacy concerned at all, then people would use cash. No, so as long as you have cash and the authorities has to give you cash whenever you want to convert your digital currency into cash, this is good to have. No, these are the checks and balances that we want it to have. And another very important thing that we have mentioned as well is the democratic, the way the institution that issues the money is created. No? So, for example, regarding the central banks of the world, it's very clear that sometimes they do not represent the people, they are not very democratically elected, and so that they may not be the most suitable institutions to be the ones that create the money that we use. But, for example, let's comment on the Positive Money Europe campaign that they have on the digital euro right now. They are arguing that there are reforms that can be used or imposed, or trying that the central bank is more democratic control, no? So that the central bank serves the interests of the people and not the interests of the banks. I must say something that I find very interesting, which is once we don't have once we have an alternative, a public money alternative, then there is no need to rescue the banks. There is no need to purchase assets from the markets in order to keep the bubbles running so that the banks do not crash and disappear. No, so this is very important. The central bank could be, in the end, eliminated if we avoid systemic risks. No, if we ensure that whenever you use a private form of money, you are assuming the risk and you are bearing all the risk that it implies. No, so in the end, as I see it, we could end up without having a central bank at all. We could end up having a monetary authority or a monetary register, but not a central bank, because it wouldn't be needed in order to save the money and to have this banking sector with all of these privileges. Luciano says again, cash never has to be abolished. I am totally agree. This is very important. And also, John Kim says, then we might have three types of currency: physical cash, online digital cash, and offline digital cash. Yes, that would be mostly it. Yeah, precisely. And by the way, all of us have agreed also on the fact that we should not forbid other kinds of private money. That's an interesting point also, because why? If we impose the use of the state's money, then if this money is used against our interests as a society, we have no alternative. So we would be in favor to have private forms of money so that people can use cryptocurrencies or social currencies or whatever other currencies that private actors create, including, and we are not sure, including those created out of debt. I am not very sure. Maybe we should not allow this kind of money. Why? Because what needs to be ensured if we allow private money creation is that all the risk is borne by those that participate on it. So we have to avoid systemic risk. For example, if Facebook creates a kind of currency out of debt, it creates it from nothing, no more than their assets. It's used by everybody and becomes 60% of all the monetary mass. And then Facebook crashes because people want to take it out and they can't because of this fractional reserve scheme. Then it would create a depression for sure. We cannot allow 60% of the money to disappear from one day to the next. So that this has systemic risk. No, it would affect so much everybody that we cannot allow this to happen. So as long as we ensure that no private money creation can have systemic risk, and this implies probably limiting the ability of market participants to create money out of debt, for example, not being possible to have more private debt money creation than your real assets, no, the real assets that you got in your company or as yourself, no. So I have this in mind because I've read this book called The End of Banking by Macmillan, and they propose this simple accounting rule that says no private actor can have more financial liabilities, that is deposits, for example, higher than the real assets that they hold. So this, for example, would imply that banks cannot do what they do today. No, they have 30 times more financial liabilities than real assets. So it's in a way saying we do not need much more of what happens in the financial markets each day, like derivatives and repo market and collateral debt obligations and all of these kind of shadow banking activities that are also money creators. Most of them would be not possible if we apply this accounting rule, which could be applied for every company in the economy. It would not be only just for banks, but for everybody. And it wouldn't affect normal business, but it could eliminate the amount of money that the banking sector can create. So this is something that I am probably in favor of, but for like private innovations, creating kinds of money that are not widely used or that do not have this systemic risk because they are 100% backed by something real, then there is no problem, so that private actors can create all of this. I am myself a creator of a social currency in Galicia that is now not working. It was called Asavia. And because I think that having local currencies, regional currencies is a very good tool to grow the economy and to relocalize whatever we can relocalize. And I think they create the good incentives for economic change that we need. And from the bottom up, so it's voluntary to participate on those. So whenever this is voluntary, you can put whatever you want into the design. You can put negative interest rates. You can decide with whatever tool to how much do you create or not, and so on. No? You can have this algorithm like in the crypto world or so on. But whenever something is mandatory to use, like for legal tender, as you may say, then it's important that we kind of protect the user, from issuer power as much as possible. So yeah, things they point out here in this positive money is article. It's the level of privacy. It's very important that we have this digital card system where you can use offline digital money. So this is something important. We have to preserve cash as well. And even though the current proposal is not worse than the current banking transfers for these amounts, we could improve on this. We could not allow banks to have all of this data that they are now gathering and probably sharing with other companies whenever we pay and so on. No? So we could go further and even create more privacy than what the current bank deposits have today. No? And this is something that they should surely say and point out here. By the way, there is a very good video that I have on my channel as well on the discussion on the European Parliament of this proposal of the digital euro by the central bank. And we had someone from Positive Money Europe, the one that wrote this article, and also Miguel Ángel Fernández Ordóñez, which is former governor of Bank of Spain and has shares a lot of this understanding with our organization, Dinero Positivo. Also, the holding limits. If you have holding limits, then this kind of money becomes a payment medium. It just becomes like any other medium of exchange. It wouldn't change the dynamics of debt creation, bubbles, crisis, rescues, and so on. No? So if you do not have a store of value where you can really move deposits out as much as people want and as much as people distrust the banking sector, then you will not benefit from all of these financial stability side. No? So it's very important that we do not have these holding limits that are only there because we want to protect a fragile system that banks create. Also, they propose to have intermediaries that are non-profit or public intermediaries. I am very much in favor of this as well. Like, for example, the post office, or for example, an ecosystem of regional non-for-profit community banks. They could be the ones preferred or chosen by the central bank or by the monetary authority to be the ones providing the basic services of charging your cards or making transfers and so on. So we could collaborate with all of this ethical banking sector, with all of these regional community banks to be the ones that intermediate most of the public money, that digital public money that we create. No, that would be better than having a central bank doing this by itself. That's not on the table anyway. But not only that, but having privileged intermediaries such as banks or big tech wouldn't be the solution as well. And this is a real risk that we face, that we end up having new privileges on these digital forms of money. So it's interesting that these kind of things. Yeah, so enough of CBDC for the moment. And on other side, we have another campaign going on, which is let me look. Sovereign Money EU. Let me check if it's here. We have another campaign. No, this is Joseph Hoover's. I entered without wanting in Joseph Hoover blog, which I really recommend as well. It has a lot of interesting articles and topics about many different things that I would like to discuss here. Also, pages like Alliance for Just Money or Progressive Money Canada. They have amazing videos that I really recommend to understand all of this. And there are differences on the proposals. Like, for example, Progressive Money Canada on this video, they propose something that can be done in the case of Canada because their central bank is allowed to create money for the government, purchasing directly all the amount of bonds or securities of the government that they want. So the government can get as much as into debt as they want, as long as this bank is buying these bonds. So they, for example, their proposal of central bank digital currency, the way of issuing it would be directly financing the government. But there are other ways. For example, we have discussed that a better way could be to give it away to all citizens, no, like a citizens dividend. And this would be, in my case, ensure a little bit more this independence of the power of money creation and other kind of powers like the government, no? If the issuer creates a lot of money, as long as it gives it away as a gift, as an asset in itself for everybody benefits in the same way from seigniorage, no? So from the benefit of creating money. So we have these proposals, no? The way it's issued and enters circulation matters. It could be through government spending, or it could be directly through citizens' accounts, and later, if the government wants, can tax it somehow or whatever. John Kim says here another interesting comment. Let's take it big. Banking and payment systems should be integrated. Yeah, this is another way to put it. I would say that, for example, nowadays we have already a digital form of public money, which is bank reserves, no? So-called bank reserves that are an asset of the central of the banks, of the banking sector, and also the government. It's a liability from the central bank. So it's a kind of digital public money. But the only ones that can use it, that can access this money, are the banks themselves and the government. So that other payment institutions like PayPal, MasterCard, or Facebook, if it wanted, have to go through the banking sector to make payments. For example, in Spain, we have an app called Visum that has a lot of success, but it has to collaborate with the banking sector so that it can work, because the banks are the ones having the real infrastructure for settling payments at the end, no? So this is a kind of discrimination, that only commercial banks can use the only kind of digital public money that there is. And that is giving 4% of interest nowadays. It has given banks fallen profits this year until July, that they canceled this interest payment for the excess reserves because it was kind of crazy. So that, yeah, this is a discrimination to other payment services providers, no? So a good way to solve this is to integrate banking and payment system, no? You know, like banks, if people stop using bank created money or bank liabilities as money, then banks would become really intermediaries, like any other payment service providers, no? And the infrastructure behind it would be public infrastructure, like a money register or something like that. So that is something. But I wanted to show you guys a campaign that we are also having these days, but I don't remember how it's the web page called. So let me see if I can find it. Yeah, I think I got it. Let me check here. Oops, I don't know what I did here. Okay, so let me put this here. So what we are doing also is coordinating a campaign in Europe level to help spread the word about sovereign money, all of this that we are talking here, no, that banking reform, so that we have this public digital money created as an asset in itself. So we are launching a campaign in Europe by creating this webpage that I will show you right now, which is called sovereignmoneyforall.eu. And our task is to inform very quickly for everybody, people on how the money system works and try to reach signatures, no? So we can have a lot of signatures supporting this money reform. We wanted to do a EU petition at the end, at the beginning, but we found out that we cannot use the formal process to change to ask to change the statutes or the legal terms of the ECB's mandate. No, that was our first proposal, to say let's not consider bank liabilities as legal tender. No, in order to help move the discussion a little bit further and promote digital forms of public money. But we found that we cannot have a public petition regarding these kind of points. It's not out of the question. So we at the end are going to do a normal campaign, trying to get signatures and so on, to create public awareness on this topic. It's going to be just like that. What we are going to use is a method using Google Ad Grants and many different organizations to try to have more visits and more traffic into our websites, and so that I'm very excited also to see what can we achieve doing this, copying techniques and strategies that we have seen being used successfully by other organizations that managed to get a lot of signatures, more than 1 million for a campaign on shark finning or something like that. No, so this is something that we are actually practically doing, and it's very easy. It's just coordinating efforts, so that in every website, like for example this one, we put here a banner that points out to this one, so we increase the amount of traffic that this web page gets, and so that we manage to reach many people. So that's something that we are also doing. And I would like almost just to finish, because if not, it's going to be very long. But I just wanted to comment that, for example, our Slovenian organization, I don't know the name because it's a little bit weird, has managed to put into the constitution the right to use cash. For example, Slovenia and also Czech Republic, they have been able to ensure this right into their constitutions, which is an outstanding achievement. And the way they do this is they focus, they coordinate, they focus like this for this month. The 6 of us or the 10 of us are going to study this law and try to look for something that can be changed. Then they managed to get on board some lawyers and so on, people that knows about this, and they do campaign and influence the government. So at the end, they managed to have the parliament vote in favor of ensuring this right into the constitution. So this is practical things going on, practical organizing, and I think it's very good that we share the achievements that they make. They do not discuss things that much. No, they focus on concrete things that their team can do, and that's very good. Also, the Swedish organization, how is it called? Let me check. Positiva Pengar, I guess, but I don't see it here right now. is doing a lot of things at the moment. They have written a report on their central bank's proposal on CBDC, the Corona, and so on. So they are moving forward, and they are able to get a lot of attention from international world. They have done this webinar with Peter Dietz lately, and they've been able to have a lot of views in this webinar, which is kind of a remarkable achievement as well. And they focus on the relationship between climate change fighting and the current monetary system, which there are obvious connections, in my opinion, on the need to grow and the way money is created nowadays. So that's something interesting. Also, our Netherlands organization or members of it have created these videos, the Waterworks of Money, that you can see on YouTube, and they have Spanish subtitles as well as English. They explain the monetary system very well. It's a beautiful video, and you can see many things that are very relevant. They kind of touch many proposals. They do not go too deep into the topic, but they create a general overview of the problem of our monetary system. And that's something also very, very interesting. And yeah, many of our members do not have a lot of activity. We have a lot of little organizations that do not do just much. Others are big, like for example, the Alliance for Just Money, or Denmark Codepenge had done many things. I don't know how active they are at the moment. Monetative is also collaborating on the Sovereign Money EU for All campaign, or Austria. So yeah, there is some kind of movement. There's a Greek guy doing videos on YouTube as well. I've managed to contact someone from, I think, I don't know the name of Bulgaria organization. That's something I managed to do. There is also movement on India, on the Netherlands, New Zealand. So things are happening somewhere. So yeah, that's most of it. The report that I have today, I didn't have anything planned specifically, but I want to keep doing this in the future so that we keep an overview on what's going on in the world and in our organizations. The more people participate on this, the more information we can have. There is also South Korea organization, which I would point out right now because we have John Kim here with us. And I don't know what are they doing nowadays. Maybe you can tell us, maybe in the chat, how are you doing, or how many people are there. I think there are a lot of activity in your organization as well, but I haven't had the time to talk with you. And in Argentina, yes, we have Luciano. We organize some Spanish-speaking talks from time to time, where people from Spain, Mexico, Argentina, and so on, we exchange also ideas and check with each other on how are we doing. So yeah, even though there is not formal organizations there, our Spanish organization, and also with the help of Alliance for Just Money, we are doing this kind of meetings online. So yeah, I hope that this was of your interest. I hope that you have learned a little bit more about the things that we are doing right now in the monetary system. Thanks a lot, Luciano and John Kim, for participating in the chat. That's something I really appreciate because it's the most interesting thing of doing this. Without further ado, I just want to say goodbye to everyone, to have a good time, and to keep doing this kind of experiments to see if humanity can at some point manage to solve the many crises that we face today, and if we are able to redefine our own nature, doing what can be done, no? Making sense of the problems and pushing for the right solutions. And I think that we have a great solution here, changing the way the money is created. And I would invite every one of you to participate in our organizations. We are very open to new ideas and new people. And I think that it's very useful stuff to have this this concrete focus on something that is doable, easy, and has a lot of impact, no? Which is at the core of the many problems that we face today. So many thanks to you, and Merry Christmas also, Luciano. Have nice Christmas again. A lot of strength for you, Argentinian brothers, that you face difficult times now. So yeah, count on our solidarity for everything that you need. Without further ado, Merry Christmas to everybody. It's been a pleasure, and see you in another time. Bye bye. Have a nice. Well, yeah, I already said enough. No, it's okay. Bye. Thank you.